get on the away from the sun side. You go.
I gotta go on that side.
Yep.
So you're still firm enough?
She was known as Nellie, but Nellie is a derivative from Anastasia. I'll use the name to stay. Okay, Nellie, it'll be Nellie. Okay,
Boy, I used to get it back twice as bad.
So I will call her Nellie.
Yeah.
All right. We're ready to start. Yep.
Yes.
Where's that? Right here. I will say that you do come and switch on the in your print, but then you go into English. Okay. No. But here we start. We start here with English. Right from the beginning. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Blessed be our God always, now and forever and ever. Holy God, holy and mighty, holy and immortal, have mercy on us.
Holy God, holy and mighty, holy and immortal, have mercy on us.
Holy God, holy and mighty, holy and immortal, have mercy on us.
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.
Now and forever and ever. Amen.
Trinity most holy, have mercy on us. Cleanse us of our sins, O Lord. Pardon our transgressions, O Master. Look upon our weaknesses and heal them, O Holy One, for the sake of your name.
Oh, Lord, have mercy, Lord, have mercy, Lord, have mercy.
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.
Now and forever and ever. Amen.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, now and forever and ever.
Amen.
These pages seem to stick together. There we are. С духом испочили праведны, душу слугини Твоей спаси, упокой, берегай її у блаженні Твоїм житті, чоловіко любче.
In your abode, O Lord, where all your saints repose, give rest also to the soul of your servant, for you alone chains of those in bondage. Also to the soul of your servant, O Savior, give repose.
Now and forever and ever. Amen.
Only chaste and immaculate Virgin, who gave birth to God without sin, intercede before him for the salvation of her soul.
Have mercy on us, O God, in the greatness of your compassion, we pray you hear us and have mercy.
Lord, have mercy. Lord, have mercy. Lord, have mercy.
We also pray for the repose of the soul of the servant of God, Nellie, who has fallen asleep, and the forgiveness of her offenses, voluntary and involuntary.
Lord, have mercy. Lord, have mercy. Lord,
Let the Lord God may place her soul where all the just repose.
have mercy. Lord, have mercy. Lord, have mercy.
Let us ask Christ, our immortal King and our God, for the mercy of God, for the kingdom of heaven, and the forgiveness of her sin.
Grant this, O Lord.
Let us pray to the Lord.
Lord, have mercy.
God, the spheres of our flesh you trampled out, you made the devil powerless and gave light to your world. Now, O Lord, to the soul of your servant, Nellie, who has fallen asleep, and rest in a place of light, a place of virgin, a place of tranquility, from which pain, sorrow, and mourning have fled. As the good and loving God, forgive every sin of thought, word, and deed that she has committed. There is no one who will live and will not sin, for you alone are sinless. Your justice is everlasting justice, and your word is true. For you, Christ our God, are the resurrection, the life, and the repose of your servant Nellie was fallen asleep. We give glory to you, together with your eternal Father, most holy, good, and life-giving Spirit, now and forever and ever.
Amen.
The earth belongs to the Lord, and all that exists in it, the whole universe and everything that lives in it. You are earth, O child, dust and the ashes. This is why you return to the earth according to God's command. This grave is sealed until the second coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Lord, open up and receive this body, torn from you by the
He has to say things in them I in towns.
hand,
Bless his sleep.
which is now returning to you as to its mother. What has been made in God's image creator has already reclaimed. And now, O earth, receive what belongs to you.
have the word now.
I just want to take a moment and pay a tribute to my mother. You know, in life, it's my hope that we all can say that we had or have an amazing mother. Now, I know that's not true for everybody. Some people, their mothers would die quite young, and for other people, there's sad reasons why they can't say that. But I actually can say that. And I know when people can say they had an amazing mother, the list is long and never ending. And I would like to share a couple of my reasons of why I can say that about my mother. See, my mom lost her sight in 1966, and by 1969, 1970, she was declared legally blind. And we know that being blind is a handicap. And I mean, if you think about the time that it happened and being on a farm when we didn't have technology, most things were done by hand, it was a burden. It was a difficulty. But I want to share a story with you about how my mom handled it. And I can't remember exactly when it was. I think it was about 12 or 13. And Dad, some fella come to see Dad to do some business, and back in those days you did business over the kitchen table. So he invited him in, Dad invited him into the house, and he says, have a seat. And he told Mom to put some water on and to cut some squares, and he went downstairs to go get whatever documentation he needed. And so Mom went to the fridge and got the squares out, and she was cutting them up, and she put them on the table, and the fella stood up to shake her hand, and she just ignored him and put the squares on the table, went back to the counter and got some cookies. Then she went to the cupboard and grabbed some cups, and my father come back up. So he sat down and they started talking, and Mom had to go to the bathroom. And when she was gone, this fella said to my dad, he says, I think I offended your wife, or she doesn't like me. I went to shake her hand and she wouldn't do anything. And he says, oh, I forgot to tell you, she can't see. See, he couldn't tell that my mom was blind. And I knew this wasn't going to be easy. And that's something that happened to me too. Because I would look at my friends and I would, see their mothers. And their mothers would put in a garden. My mother put in a garden. Their mother kept livestock, chickens and eggs, and my mother kept chickens. My mother cleaned and kept the house. Their mother cleaned and kept the house. Their mothers went to the sporting events when they had them. My mother went to the sporting events when there were. She was a regular mother. After a while, you didn't know that you didn't really see unless you saw somebody leading her, or you had to watch for a while. But initially, you never really noticed that she was blind. And that's the amazing thing about my mother. She had a spirit that said, no matter what's in front of me, I'm not going to quit. She didn't know what the word quit meant. Whatever put in front of her, and later on in life on the farm, there were some other difficulties. I'm sure people around the community know what I'm talking about, that she faced, and she just kept fighting. There was nothing going to put that lady down, and she got through it. And that's one of the things about my mother. She had a will and a strength and a spirit that said, I'm not going to quit. My mother also had a sense of humor. It was very dry, but it was quite funny. I'd like to share a story with you. In 1982, Dad was going to get rid of the herd. So he asked me to come back from college and help him get the herd ready for that. And we had 2 hired men and myself looking after about 500 head of cattle. Well, the one morning, I think it was probably late March, maybe early April, because we'd already let the animals out in the pasture. And those of you that are familiar with the farm know that we had a holding pasture just across the road from the house. And we used to have a bigger pen there that we would feed. So it was time to feed them, and both hired men were sick. So I was just sitting at the table eating breakfast, complaining about how much longer it was going to take me, because now I had to drive the truck, because we'd load the back of the truck up with chop, and then one would drive and the other one would just shovel it over the side, and then we'd let the cows in. Well, now I'd have to drive the truck, jump in the box, shovel, drive the truck, jump in the box and shovel. And Mom heard me complaining, and she says, well, I can drive. And I said, yeah, but where we're going to end up if you're driving, I don't know. She says, well, all you have to do is tell me where to go. And I thought for a moment, now how many people have a mother that gave him permission to tell her where to go? So Mom said sure. So I drove. After I ate, I went and I filled the truck box up with chop, and I stopped at the house, and Mom come out, and we went across into the pasture, and I lined the truck up, and I said, okay, Mom, slide over here, and she slid in. I said, put it into low 1, and I said, go ahead, press the brakes and the gas so you can know where they are, because it's been a few years since she drove, quite a few. And so she started to drive, and my first words out of my mouth were, a little slower, a little slower. And anyway, we're driving, and I'm putting out chop, and I noticed a couple of calves, like newborns, or fairly newborn, had snuck through the fence, and they were running up toward the truck, and Mom couldn't see them. So I yelled, hit the brake, and Mom did, which caused me to leave the back of the truck, up against the cab, over the cab, down the hood, and I was standing in front of the truck looking at Mom through the window. And so I shake my head and I walk around, she's still holding the brake, thankfully, and I go, what are you doing? She says, what did you do? I says, I just fell out of the truck because you hit the brake. She said, well, you told me to hit the brakes. I said, but I didn't tell you to push them through the floorboards. So I said, let's finish. So I start walking to go back and jump in the back of the truck, and Mom yells out the window, and this time, don't fall out.
Moral of the story was you're supposed to listen to your mother. When she says something, do it.
I did. I didn't fall out the second time. So my mom had quite the sense of humor. The next one is interesting. I don't know who knows here, but in 1995, I went back to school to become a minister. So in the life I live, God becomes pretty important. Now I know when I talk to almost everybody, not everybody, there's a few, almost everybody says I believe in God. And I believe they do. But not everybody trusts in God. And my mom used to be like that. She believed in God, but a day in April, actually it was our auction sale in 1995, her belief got put to the test. We had set the auction date in February for a Sunday, and Barnsley was our auctioneer. And as the date got closer, I got a phone call from him, and he said, some stuff has just happened. Can we move the date from Sunday to Saturday? I said, sure, go ahead. And then I got a phone call a week later, something else had changed, so we had to make another change in the sale. And I said, sure, go ahead. And there was about 3 changes that happened that he never started or I started, but they just happened, and then we had to deal with them. So we get to the week of the sale. The sale's on Saturday, and Monday they come with their crew, and we start cleaning the equipment up and getting things ready. And Thursday, he calls me and he says, can we talk? And we go into the house, into the kitchen, and we're standing there. He says, we have to put a cancellation plan in place. And I said, why? He says, well, we just got a weather report that there's a big storm, a possible big storm on Saturday with up to 3 inches of snow. And I thought for a minute, and I was just about to say okay, and then something inside of me said no. And I looked at him and I said, you're going to think I'm crazy, but I'm going to say no cancellation plan. And he said, why? And I said, well, I'm training to be a minister. And I said, all of the things that have happened have moved this date to Saturday. You didn't do it, I didn't do it. Somebody did, and I believe it was God. So, you know what? If he moved it there, then that's the day it has to be. Because I don't want to fight with God, and I don't think you do either. And he just shook his head and thought I was crazy and decided to walk out of the house. And as the door closed, I didn't know that my mother had been standing in the hallway, and she heard the entire conversation. And then I heard her, because when she would go down the hallway, she'd always feel with her hand so she wouldn't walk in the wrong door. I heard her hand dragging across down the hallway, and she was saying, he's lost his mind, he's lost his mind, we're going to lose everything, I don't know what happened to him. And she went into her bedroom and closed the door. Well, that kind of shook me up, so I went and had a little conversation with God, and I said, I'm trusting you, but if I got this wrong, hold me accountable, not my mom. She didn't do anything wrong. And then it went back out. And so we kept getting stuff ready. Friday morning, I wake up and I look up at my ceiling. It's kind of grayish, so I stand up and look outside, and there's maybe just a slight layer of snow and frost, and it's been that way every day when we're getting stuff ready. I shook my head and I said, this is Friday, tomorrow's the day. So we went out and everything dried up, and we got stuff ready and lined up for Saturday. And Barnsley had said in the morning of Saturday, get up early, about 6 o'clock, and take some rags and wipe the dew off of everything and start the machinery to make sure there's no trouble starting it and everything. And a couple of neighbors had volunteered to come and help. So I wake up, the alarm clock goes off at 6 o'clock Saturday morning, and I open my eyes and I look at my ceiling and it's bright. The sun's shining. First time all week. So I take a deep breath and I jump out of bed and I look out the window. There's no snow, there's no frost, there's not even any wind. And I just said thank you. And then I went out and went to the machinery. I had a bucket full of rags, and we were going to take the rags and wipe it down, and there wasn't a drop of dew on the machinery. It was perfectly dry. So then we just started it to make sure that it would all run and everything was good. Found out that one tractor wire got knocked off when we were washing it. Put the wire back on, fired up, everything was good. So I go back in the house and I have some breakfast and I grab a shower, and when I come out, the sale was starting at 10 o'clock. It was about 10 minutes to 10. I come up from downstairs from having a shower and I look out the window. There's probably 100 people there, and he's just starting to sell the shop stuff. And I look around and I go, wow. He said there'd maybe be 20 or 30 people. I said, this is a good start. Well, to make a long story short, I think we hit 21 that day. I got an ugly sunburn. We didn't have a snow or anything. There wasn't a hiccup in the sale. Everything went smooth. And a bunch of ladies were helping my mom in the house do whatever they were doing, because I was outside most of the day. And then at the end of the sale, Barnsley comes into the house with myself, and we go into the living room and we sit on the couch, and he's looking kind of pale. And I asked him, I said, are you okay? You're not looking good. And he looked at me funny. He says, you mean you don't know? And of course, when he says that and it's dealing with money in an auction sale, every horrible thought goes through your mind. And I says, no, I don't know what. And he says, well, a couple of people come up to me this morning and they said that there was 3 other auction sales in the area besides mine, and that all 3 of them got snowed out and were canceled. So
Hallelujah, Lord. Hallelujah,
so
Jesus.
as the people were going home, they hit dry ground. There was no snow, and they remembered that there was one auction yet. So they decided to go see if it was canceled, and it was still on. That's why we had 100 people to start. And he told me that at the end of the day, he registered 416 bidders. The auction sale, like I said, was without a hitch. And he's just staring at me while he's telling me this. And I got this smile growing on my face. It's getting bigger and bigger. And I says, and you doubted God.
Wow.
Well, something changed for my mother that day, because she was sitting in the kitchen and she heard that conversation as well. And a couple of days later, there was one of the ladies that was helping in the house gave me a call, and she says, I need to tell you something about your mother. I said, what was that? And she said, well, the ladies were talking in the house, and every time somebody would say what a beautiful day it is, your mom would always say, God just gave us this day. So what changed for my mom on that day? She went from somebody who believed in God to now somebody who believed in God and also trusted God. And that changed her life. It made things a whole lot easier. The final thing I'd like to share with you, and I started by sharing being blind and what a handicap it was, and it is, but there also come a surprising blessing from being blind that most people experienced, but I don't think you understood it. You see, in life, when we can see other people looking at us, we start to be concerned about what they're thinking about us. And we try to change our behavior a little bit so that we, look better. I mean, I can't speak for anybody else, but I know that if I see a very attractive lady go by, my stomach gets smaller. So what other people see and think of us impacts how we act and who we become. Well, my mom couldn't see those other people looking at her. And for over 50 years of her life, she couldn't see other people looking at her. And over time, she forgot to be concerned about what they thought, which allowed her to be herself in absolutely every situation she faced. There was no acting, there was no pretending. All you ever got was Nellie, 100% pure, no additives. I mean, it was the best way to share that with you. I'm pretty sure everybody here must have walked up to my mother at some time and said, hi Nellie, like touched her, because she couldn't see you coming. So she had to hear your voice before she knew you were there. And the reaction you would get would sort of be like somebody opening their present on Christmas Day and seeing it's what they wanted, and you get that excitement and you get that glow on your face. That's how my mom always answered. That's because she couldn't see anybody coming. So when you talked to her and she recognized who you were, she was 100% real. That's who I am, and that's how she greeted you. You know, it was always, there was that excitement. And if there wasn't excitement, then you knew it was time to walk away. My mom wasn't God, she wasn't perfect, but she was my mom. And because of that blindness, the blessing was that it allowed her, almost forced her, to always be herself. There was never any acting, there was never any pretending. When you talked to my mother, like it or not, you got the real deal. And one of the things that was interesting, when we went to the home on the day she died and we were talking to the staff, almost every staff said this: your mother is very special. And I laughed and I said, I know why. That's because you're not used to talking to somebody that isn't afraid, isn't concerned about what you think of her. She's just being herself all the time. And
God bless you, son. Morris.
not yet, sir. One little bit.
You still more?
Just a sentence.
Okay.
I just needed to just gather myself from in here. And you see, that's why I can stand here today and say that I truly had an amazing mother.
Amen.
And now we have an amazing son too.
Working on it.
Keep on working. And she must have had good connection with our Lord. Look at the beautiful day she got.
God gave her this day, Bishop.
Okay. In blessed sleep, grant eternal rest, O Lord, to ever remember servant Nellie and make her memory everlasting. So to the вечную память.
Everlasting memory, everlasting memory, everlasting memory. Each triumph on ya, 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 each triumph on ya. With all the saints give repose, O Christ, everlasting memory.
And our Father in the Hail Mary for the whole family, so that you can continue having that good faith that they have and be able to carry on the sadness to great eternal joy. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
This concludes the services here at the cemetery. But Morris now invites everyone over to the parish center for a time of fellowship and lunch. Thank you.
Thanks. guess you can pause her now.
You can pause it.